Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be doing a podcast featuring myself and a friend of mine, Lamar. Lamar, why don't you go ahead and say a few words for the fans?
What's up, man? What's up, man? Just here, just chilling with you.
All right, so how have you been doing today? First off,
I'm all right, man. I'm all right.
all right, that's good. All right, so today I figure we'll do a couple of discussions on a couple of topics that we've already picked out for the show. First off, we're going to go ahead and talk about the new emergency ban list, I guess you could call it, for the upcoming standard and modern formats taking place as of January 9th, 2017. Again, for the standard and modern formats, it's a total of 5 cards, but we'll go over each one, give our thoughts on each one, and why we think they should be banned or should not be banned. So let's go ahead and we'll also do a second topic for. We wanted to do something for how we think, based on our experiences, based on the things we know from our experiences, on how new players should be introduced to Magic, how we believe that the best way to get into the game, the products you should buy, how you should probably, what formats you probably want to try first to make it a little bit more fun, get the experience. So we'll go ahead and start with the ban list, starting with the first card for standard, Emrakul, the Promised End. So let's go ahead and read the little description. And again, guys, these bans we'll be reading the descriptions for why they got banned from Wizards directly, and then we'll discuss exactly what we think of the card. So again, for the first card, Emrakul, the Promised End. Created to be, by Wizard's definition, created to be scarily powerful. Emrakul, the Promised End, delivered on that promise too well. Emrakul faced too little resistance and ended games too easily. She was the world-ending, all-powerful monster she was in the story, which was too much for standard. So Lamar, agree or disagree?
I disagree on this ban. I mean, it was a powerful card, but not every deck ran it. I can see it was like it was on an average between 20 to 30% in deaths. That's true. I know that's high for a standard death, but this is not unusual for standard. Standards usually only have 4 deaths in play at any point in time anyway. The card
Right,
is powerful, no joke, but the card doesn't really give us effect unless it's casted.
right. And I mean, based on the ability, for those that do not know, Emrakul, the Promised End, is a 13 cost, 13/13 Eldrazi. Uh, Basically, how it works is it costs one colorless less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard, which greatly reduces the cost of this card, being that it is a 13, easily can be brought down by, what, say, on average in a
Seven.
game of, on
It can be
average
brought
in a
down
game
by
of standard.
seven, but it can be
Uh,
brought down by seven, but
I'm just saying, but on average in a game of standard, what, maybe 4 or 5 on average?
yeah, about 4 and 5. It can be brought down by a maximum of 7, though.
Right.
Well,
So,
actually, in standard is about 4 or 5. If you go through everything, it can be brought down by 10.
right, right. But okay, let's go for the average because it is standard ban. So on average 4 to 5. I mean, but still having a card that's going to essentially cost anywhere from 6 to 8 mana to play the card instead of the original 13 is certainly a huge advantage in and of itself. But then on
Yeah.
top of that, it also has the ability, when you cast Emrakul, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn. Uh, that, in effect, in and of itself, to me, is not too significant in itself. I guess it does kind of give you a turn to kind of mess with your opponent's hand, their creatures. If they're running any kind of a sack outlet, you could essentially make them get rid of all their cards, tap out all their lands, use land abilities that sacrifice themselves when your opponent didn't want to do it. Play helpful cards to counter their own cards. Definitely a lot of utility. What do you think on that?
Yeah, it's definitely it's the ability to definitely give you a huge utility to take out your opponent a little early, if need be, or take them out completely that same turn. So you can completely disable your opponent on that turn you take care of them if need be. If the opponent didn't have anything in hand, you didn't really do anything. You just tap them down for a turn and basically let them take 13 in the hit on your turn, maybe more depending on your board.
Right, and probably even if they had some more like utility creatures, you probably made them attack you, and then you had the option to block with your own cards, so you could essentially get cheap blocks on their utility cards they didn't want to lose.
Yeah,
But definitely, I agree. A lot of utility. I don't think that ability in and of itself was a reason to ban it. But perhaps what I'm seeing is a lot of the controversy is probably the third, the last of its effects, which would be flying, trample, and protection from instants. I suppose
yeah,
if you kind of mix that with the second effect, with the reduced casting cost, it all kind of culminates into a sequence of effects that really give you way too much advantage for way too little cost.
yeah. It did give you a lot of. It did give you yourself as a player who's running it a huge advantage. But to me, I didn't think it deserved to be banned. I think it deserved to be down to reduced to one. So
I
it would not be so basically if you're gonna run it, you basically have to top that the living hell out of the card. So that's what I'm saying. If you had a way to search it out, which standard doesn't have a way to search it out, I think.
Right, yeah. Standard usually kind of avoids the whole search. A lot of overly used searches. So I definitely don't. I definitely think you had probably had to run like some kind of a draw engine to make this thing like really reliable, more consistent. But I can definitely see it probably took some setup to play this card efficiently. Probably not too much to the point where it would become unplayable, of course. But I can agree this card probably should not have been banned. I can definitely see it if it had been restricted to one or maybe even two. It would be more balanced. Uh, but real quick, what do you think would actually need to be done to make this card more playable where it wouldn't need to be banned?
Um,
I mean, like changes in cost, maybe like some rewording, reducing power toughness.
most likely reducing the lower the cost ability. I think lower the cost ability should not be on the card whatsoever. Because it's Immortal. I mean, the last Immortal that you take, basically you ran it and took dang infinite turns. That's why
Right,
that card is banned in freaking modern. Was banned in EDH.
right.
It's
Well,
legal in modern, which is still stupid. But in the last Immortal is completely banned in EDH because you have infinite turn combos. This
right,
one doesn't give you an infinite turn combo. It does combo with freaking another card that says your opponent does not get the effect of an extra turn is negated because of it. I think it's Eldrazi Monument. So you basically play Emrakul in EDH, and you take control of that turn. It just doesn't, especially in EDH, doesn't mean you win for shit. It means you can probably did anything because it's possible in reaction you can either pitch your hand or just play everything you have in EDH. But this is
right,
EDH standard. I still think to really deal with it is just reduce to amount to one. I think two is a little too dang much because then you just main deck two of them. I say one, so then you'll just only run one. Then you have to be extremely lucky to draw it. Even with a draw engine, you're basically burning your draws just to get to this one card. If you're running a blue like summary dismissal or you're running summary dismissal, you don't give a rat's ass about it. So you're just thinking, okay, you cast him. I'm going to summary dismissal your card. Thank you for wasting your card in general.
right. And I agree on that. So yeah, I can understand moving it down to one. Maybe, and I say in my opinion, if it were to be restricted to two, maybe remove if it had been printed with like without the ability to reduce its own cost, and you actually had to pay the full cost with the last two sets of effects, it might have been more balanced and probably wouldn't need to be banned at all. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it probably wouldn't ban at all if it didn't have no way to reduce its cost. But also, this card was heavily played when the Heroes in. When the Heroes in this card, they just cheated her in, basically just used it as a 13-13 beater, where effect didn't go off. But they also ran Ulamog too,
Right.
The English one.
Well, I mean, even still though, even without without the first effect trigger, and you still have the flying trample protection from instants as
Yeah,
like a shield, I guess you could say.
it's definitely a shield.
But okay, so I think at this point we're both in agreement. Emrakul, the Promised End, was probably not necessarily need to be banned, maybe restricted down to one. I don't know if it's necessarily the fact that maybe Wizards just doesn't want to just straight out. They don't. I guess they don't want to fall back to restricting cards. Maybe if they think if they just ban it, that just solves the problem altogether. Don't want to go through the headache of trying to find the balance of number of copies, maybe.
Yeah, I could have been it. I know what they didn't really give a rat's ass, but that's my opinion.
Right. Well, maybe from a business point of view, them being a business, it's just more of, how they're going to make more money off the card, and let it run wild for a little bit, and then let's just ban it just to rein everybody back in, make you restructure decks and whatnot.
Why they let it rain for 3 months? So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna let it rain, you might as well let it finish raining. Of course, it'd be another freaking 9 months of raining, but but we have no idea. We Eighth Revolt is coming out freaking this weekend, and we have no idea what the next set actually foretold. The next set is supposed to have Nicobolas. Who knows? Nicobolas is say freaking get your ass off the field permanently. So
Right.
we don't know that.
Right. Until we see everything, then I guess being Wizards, they already know what's in their own set. So maybe
So
there's something coming out that's going to make Emrakul way too good, no matter how many
way
copies
too
there
good.
are. So maybe they're getting ahead of the curve, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to card number 2, Smuggler's Copter. In the description that Wizards has provided for Smuggler's Copter is, simply put, Smuggler's Copter is too efficient and shows up in too many decks, diminishing the format's diversity. We want Planeswalkers, sorcery speed removal, and a variety of vehicles to be viable options. And believe that removing Smuggler's Copter will allow them to all the different types of other decks to flourish again. Of the top archetypes in Standard, very few didn't play 4 copies of Smuggler's Copter, stifling many creative, fun options. Smuggler's Copter was the result of a new card type pushed too far, and as such is now banned. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, this card definitely needs to be banned. It was in goddamn everything. I mean, the fact that it was in 60% plus decks, yeah, this card needs to be banned.
Right.
It gives you way too much card advantage, and it was hard to freaking remove because most of the removal says remove target creature, and he's not a creature.
Right.
So, I mean, green has artifact removal, but
But
if
that
you're not running
pushes
green, you have no reason.
right. It pushes too many decks toward having to play against the deck, having to play too much defense. So I definitely see that. I agree. I definitely agree on this one. Smuggler's Copter definitely needed to be banned. I mean, you're getting too much for too little. All of its effects are great. They synergize perfectly with their decks. Practically with any deck is what they're saying. And the fact that it just forces 4 copies as a basic standard staple. So again, you're just getting
Yeah, it was
you're
actually in every
getting
deck.
right. So you're getting way too much value for something that basically costs nothing to play. I mean, just giving a 2-cost artifact that, again, like you said, dodges removal from your opponent on their turn because it's not a creature, and the fact that you can, as after it's been in play, you can effectively turn it into a creature whenever you want. So you can force your opponent into a bunch of bad situations because you can essentially go into combat phase, then tap to make it a creature. So your opponent's lost any turn of priority to try to get rid of it before you even go into combat with this thing. And it's essentially you're tapping any creature. I mean, practically any creature to have this thing turn into a 3/3 flyer, which is just hard to get rid of on its own.
Yeah. And freaking out, and the best way to remove it was freaking out a sorcery speed exile, which unfortunately only worked on creatures.
Right, and as we said, it's basically on your opponent's turn, and it's not going to be a creature. So
Yep.
it definitely took a lot of playabilities out of a lot of decks. So like you said, you had to play green, or you had to play cards that specifically got rid of just artifacts in general. Which
Yep.
I agree on the part of Wizards that just it made the meta way too thin. You had to play certain decks with certain copies. otherwise you just couldn't win. And it just so turns out that with Smuggler's Copter, it was basically everybody played it, and that just wasn't healthy for the format.
Especially running Mardu. Mardu freaking even powered it up, so it turned into a 5/5 first striking flying helicopter that drew you a card. So yeah,
Right. So there was just too much. There's the card in and of itself is just too good again for too little, and then with other support cards for the that you could put into the deck. Because as I said, but you could basically tech it into anything. Everybody ran it. You had to. So there was a lot of pump additional abilities that you could give this card, and it would just become far too versatile and way too good.
yep.
So overall, over with Smuggler's Copter, is there any way that you can think of that would have made this a little bit more fair so it
No,
could have dodged?
this card, there's no saving it. Your best way to save it is to increase the cost by 2 and increase the crew cost by 2 as well. So it basically turns into a freaking name 4 drop and a crew of freaking 3.
Right. So
So it's not completely broken.
right, you effectively turn an early game engine into a mid to late game to take away some of its early game plays. Uh, just from looking at it, I agree that's probably the only thing you could have done to make this card any more playable or less playable to the fact that it would have been fair and not an issue for the standard format or for diversity for the decks. So I definitely agree on that one. All right, so moving on for our third and final card for the standard format. One of our old favorite cards, Reflector Mage. Wizards' definition for Reflector Mage, or for their reason for banning Reflector Mage, is our data showed the white-blue flash deck was too powerful against the field, and Reflector Mage has been on players' list of most disliked cards since the days of collected company. Other cards were discussed to check white-blue flash, but Reflector Mage came up time and time again as both frustrating and a targeted way to diminish the white-blue flash deck. So agree or disagree on this one?
I disagree on this one. This dude doesn't have flash. I know the deck that runs it has stuff that flashed in, which basically you ran freaking white blue freaking spirits or white blue black spirits, and that's what you freaking put them in. But the cards that you ran in freaking gave all spirits flash, but he doesn't have it. I get why he's banned, but I don't think he deserved to be banned.
Right. So, in my opinion, I agree with you on this one. I don't think that Reflector Mage, in and of itself, needed to be banned. I guess, in their opinion, again, saying that the fact that it gave you too much control against the field, I can definitely say that. It definitely makes sense, the fact that Reflector Mage, it stalls your opponent from being able to play it again the next turn. I definitely see how it has a large playability issue within the fact that it essentially stalls your opponent out on one of their key cards, perhaps, if they make a misplay, not really thinking that you have it. It's definitely a good card. I don't think we can really deny that fact. I mean, having a 3-cost card for a 2/3 in and of itself is fairly good, and then the fact that it just comes in, does its thing, and it pushes your opponent into a position where potentially they can't play their game-winning card for 2 more turns.
Yeah, but I mean, freaking this when Return of Ravnica came out, we had freaking dang Restoration Angel and Snapcaster Mage, and that deck ran the fucking world. Period.
Oh, of course.
It was in the top decks. Period for the longest time until it finally rotated out as standard. But they didn't ban either. They didn't ban freaking Restoration Angel, which had flash, and Snapcaster Mage, which had flash. And freaking that thing, basically every other card that you ran in the deck was an instant, and yet they didn't ban any of it.
Right. So it kind of, you can kind of compare it to that fact. Yeah, I guess on the part of Wizards, it's more of, you see this card as somewhat of a combination of, maybe a combination perhaps of those 2 cards, except without the flash. I definitely agree, if it had flash, it should have just been instantly banned the minute it comes out. Just because that definitely creates far too much versatility. Because essentially, if it had flash, you play it on your opponent's turn. It gives you the ability to take out their key cards the turn they play it. So not only did they essentially waste the mana to play it, but now you're locking them out of that card for 2 turns. Because if I'm wrong, he does say until your next turn. So it doesn't lock them out for 2 turns, but it does force them to kind of waste the mana. You get to bounce it back. They can't play it anymore for that turn. But it definitely gives as the card is, it definitely gives a lot of playability. But I don't see a valid reason for it to be banned. Maybe perhaps again with Emrakul, like with Emrakul, maybe Wizards is taking the precaution, knowing what's in the set. Maybe there's going to be something that allows Reflector Mage to have increased versatility.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. What could have did it? Most likely is Felidar Guardian, the new Cat Beast token, the new Cat Beast creature coming down the Aether Revolt, which when Felidar Guardian enters the battlefield, you may exile another target permanent you control, then return it to the field. So blink, that gives the blink ability. With the current that deck revealing and the combo that's in swing with it, that causes an increase of Saheeli Rai, which are -2 is create an artifact token creature with haste. So most likely, just doing this would caused another freaking issue. I'm guessing it would create a whole control issue.
Right.
But in order to really, to me, to be one hell of a real issue, you actually have to run Paranormicon in that combo as well, which is a 4-drop artifact and it doubles the ETB triggers, the battlefield triggers.
Right.
So that could have been why they banned it, which definitely be a reason to ban it, and also freaking the fact that Saheeli Rai can copy it and trigger the effect too. I still say it doesn't need to be banned. it would have been fucking ruthless to me. It would definitely been a ruthless combo with no counter, besides summary dismissal.
Right.
But I guess that's why it was do that is because of Saheeli Rai, which it wasn't in Saheeli Rai debts.
Right.
So
I actually, reading over this description, I actually have maybe possibly another theory. The fact that as the description states, one of the most disliked cards since the days of Collected Company. Looking at Collected Company in and of itself, the fact that it, being a 4-cost greens instant, that essentially it's going to let you look at the top 6 cards of your deck, put 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom in any order. I mean, granted, that's not in standard, but maybe, who knows, maybe with this new set about to come out, maybe there's going to be a card very similar to that. And if that's the case, then I can definitely see why Reflector Mage could deserve to be banned, because with cards like that, it's going to give you way too much way to dig further into the deck to get the card a lot quicker.
There are cards with that focus on certain cards with like Barrel, Chief of Compliance, but he lowers the cost of instance by 1. But his expertise is a 5-cost spell, colorless and double blue. Return up to 3 target artifacts and or creatures to their owner's hand. So that's one part of it. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 4 or less for free. There are also freaking ones for each color and each creature. There's another one that's 4 cost that allows you to cast 3 cost creatures for free. I think that was the black one though. Let me double check that. But I can see this card is an issue. Would be more of an issue, and it'll probably be done the same way Smaller Copter was. It'd be a throw-in.
Right.
But this is creature combos. Creature combos can be dealt with.
Right, and quite easily, especially as we were talking about before the show. The fact that I think it would actually be quite interesting with like the Reflector Mage mirror match, because in my opinion, basically what it would come down to is whoever plays Reflector Mage first loses.
Yeah.
I guess it would come down to whoever can bounce the other player's Reflector Mage, then manage to return theirs to keep from getting locked out and return 2 turns later. And then basically whoever can bounce the better cards without getting locked out in return. I guess at that point it's going to come down to whoever plays the more tech options to really determine how that mirror match ends. But again, I definitely if with the new set, if there's a lot of cards or current cards even that allow you to dig for these cards, I can definitely see an understanding of why they wanted to ban this card just to keep it from getting out of control, giving too much utility.
Yeah, I was right. It was a black one. It's called Yahini's Expertise. It's 2 colors, double black. This is also a board wipe. So all creatures get -3 until the end of turn. So you may cast a card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand without paying the mana cost. But if you killed everything, you don't care about bouncing it. So I mean, I just see if the dude had like an 8/8 in the field, then you played that, then bounced it to your hand, the bounce card to the hand, then that's really freaking annoying. But there's Magic. Magic's not freaking out name does some annoying shit anyway.
Right, it's not meant to be fair from the start.
I mean, it really isn't. I mean, you like I said, freaking the entire time Restoration Angel and Snapcaster remained freaking out there, and you had a $50 Restoration Angel I was trying to get for months, and a freaking $45, $50 freaking Restoration Angel I was trying to get for freaking months when they were in Standard. Freaking that thing, but they didn't do anything to that whole thing because you also had Finch's Revelation, which is a freaking that thing instant to let you draw cards and freaking that and gain life at instant speed. A board wipe that let you freaking on board wipe at instant speed. They didn't do anything to any of that, and yet they don't worry about this Reflector Mage.
Right.
But I mean, I guess they're trying to make up for that now, but it's a little late for that.
Yeah, but trying to just like sweep it under the rug. It's like let's hope they kind of forget that we let this happen. Now we're gonna play catch up and essentially try to pretend, now we're gonna actually do this correctly and not let it happen again. We let it happen once, but we can't let this kind of thing happen twice.
Yeah. I guess that's their fits. To me, if you want to freaking patch the Band-Aid, the fuck up you made out them a few years ago, that's your issue. But it's not that much anyway. So yeah, I mean, it ain't like it was a $15 card.
Right. Don't take it out on Reflector Mage.
Yeah. The smaller cards there need to be banned, hands down. It definitely need to be banned.
Right. We both agree on that.
I think you could reduce it to 2. If it was in more decks or it was about to be teched into more decks, it would have been only 2 cards then. And then once they didn't do that, they also had to put that blink combo in the deck too. But I mean, you're putting a Paramount Harmonomicon in the deck, Sahili Ra, and the Reflector Mages in there, and that's freaking out them. And you're running 4 of each. That's 4 Planeswalker, 4 of the Cat, and 4 freaking out there. That's 12 cards right there. And that can be anywhere from another 8 cards that's in the deck. You probably need more than in a stupid combo. And in order to balance 2 things, you have to put Paranormicon in the deck too. That's an additional 4 cards, 2 to 4 cards in the deck. Well, most likely have been 4. But right. I didn't really see the point of this. But to me, since I don't really play Standard anyway, I think the format is utterly broken. But not broken in a good way. It's
right. Just more
not enough. To me, it's not enough diversity in Standard. Right. But they're trying to fix that by getting rid of that 3-month rotation and getting you a year and a half of freaking that stuff to be able to play, which will have another extra 3 to 4 sets in it from play, so you can have more diverse decks, which is cool. But when it rotates out,
it'll be more chaos in the long run that way.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing on that fact is I guess we'll have to just kind of see as it actually happens how people are able to adjust and play after that.
But it does make Standard far more cheaper though. It definitely treats it does make Standard far cheaper instead of being the Standard that's with the word like the restoration Snapcaster that was that blue-white control, which was freaking like them hitting $1,000 in the Standard deck, which is high in Standard. Freaking that thing now it's hitting like $250 on average, even less than that for a Standard deck. The green red energy deck is like freaking $150.
Right. Okay. All right, so we can essentially we can agree on for as far as standard, Emrakul was is not being treated fairly. Definitely does not need to be banned. Smuggler's Copter, I think at this point we can definitely agree does deserve its ban. And Reflector Mage, I guess we'll probably have to see more data on how new cards play, how upcoming Pro Tours go, before we can really come to a definitive decision on that one.
Yeah,
But I guess for the most part, we'll have to give Wizards the benefit of the doubt and say that they're making the better decision.
yeah. Like I said, I did see the combo capability of it. That could definitely be a ridiculous combo. But I mean, one combo requires three cards, a total of three cards to set up, and even then, you're making a choice: do I blink Sahidi Ra or do I blink Reflector Mage? The other one requires four cards. Then you don't have to make the choice and just do them both. But that's
Right,
me. I mean,
right, right.
I do think the card is great. It is a great card, but it doesn't have flash. So that if it had flash, it does definitely need to be banned. Since it doesn't, and there's no way to give it flash, especially in standard, it does not need to be banned. Restricted, yes. Banned, no.
Okay, well, so I think at this point we could easily say that essentially we could have an entire video, entire podcast just based on the conversation on this one card. So how about this? Let's leave it to the listeners, all the viewers. So guys, let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Yay, nay on Reflector Mage. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think could be done differently? What do you like about the card? Dislike about the card? Just give us your in general thoughts on the card, and we'll read through as many of the comments as possible, just to get in a general consensus of what everybody else thinks. And then perhaps in the next video, if the card comes up again in future videos, we'll bring that to the discussion as well. But I think
Yeah.
now will be a good time to move into the two modern cards we have on the new ban list.
Yeah.
So to start things off, I say one of my favorite cards, but we both know I kind of disagree, but just because as far as modern goes, it's hitting another card out of my deck personally. But I'm not going to sit here and play favorites. We're going to try to be impartial as possible. But for the first card is Gentaxian Probe. And the description that Wizards has provided for Gentaxian Probe is the increased number of third turn kills in a few ways, but particularly by giving perfect information and a card. Seeing how Gentaxian Probe essentially lets you look at your opponent's hand, then draw a card. It's going to give you exactly the knowledge that you need to how to play around your opponent's hand. Essentially, perfect information to decks that often have to make strategic decisions about going essentially all in, committing to the all important play. This hurt the ability of reactive decks to effectively bluff or for the aggressive deck to missequence their turn. Ultimately, this card did too much for too little cost. Agree or disagree?
Oh, that's a great. This damn card needs to be banned for fucking sure. It has dual mana cost. It's one Phyrexian mana, which either you pay two life or you pay a single blue. Now, no one, even in blue decks, are not playing that blue. They're playing the two life.
Right.
So they're basically casting an instant speed quicker than any. I need to look at your hand and draw a card for playing two life.
It's essentially I get to start the game at 18 life. I get to know what your hand is with still a full hand of 7 cards.
Yeah.
And even so, in my opinion, what you essentially do with this card is you would use it probably turn 1 just to go ahead and get the information of what they have, what their early turns are going to be, and then probably use a second one again, maybe 2 or 3 turns down the road, just to check to see if your opponent has any answers, anything that they could possibly do against your finishing couple of plays. Again, you're not going to be able to tell what the card they're going to draw on their next turn, but the chances of that being that one all-important card are very slim. For me, I would definitely have to say I agree with Gentaxian Pro being banned. It's essentially just really that card might as well read pay 0, draw a card. And basically, as it says, look at your opponent's hand. So I really don't think there's going to be much discussion on this one. It's pretty much open shut on that.
Yeah, it definitely be banned because it was a throw in and every deck. It was a side, either it was a four main board, two main board, or a freaking four sideboard card. That's what it was. It was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm putting this card in my deck. Period.
Right. It was definitely a four of, if not necessarily a four of. It was essentially, I've seen like a lot of modern decks at least run two main deck, two side deck, until they get a good feel of what their opponent's playing and then adjust accordingly. Because
Yeah.
once you know the cards your opponent's playing, you might even could side down to one, just for the fact that it's going to draw a card. Now that you know what your opponent's playing.
Yeah.
So okay, I think that'll pretty much cover that one. Unless you have anything else you want to add for Gentaxian Probe.
Nah. I'm glad that card's freaking gone.
All right, so now what we get to do is let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, so to speak, or in Magic's terms, let's go ahead and to address Magic's troll in the room, in the form of Golgari Grave Troll. Very fun card. The description for Golgari Grave Troll reads as follows: a dredge, the mechanic and the deck has a negative impact on Modern by pushing the format too far toward a battle of sideboards. With the printing of Cathartic Reunion, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly,
Close enough.
and prized Amalgam, the deck once again became unhealthy for the format. While those cards were discussed, the real offender always has been the dredge mechanic itself. Agree or disagree?
I disagree. Dredge is freaking awesome, but that's my opinion because I love Dredge. But they did a while back. They did remove the other combo with Rave Troll. I really wish you remember what it is, but it was far worse, and they removed it, and it got rid of freaking Dredge for a while. But then they print Cathartic Reunion and freaking out in Kaladesh, which lets you dump two things and draw three cards. That's really their fault. And prize amalgam, which you drop that and along with it and cast it and got it back for free. That's really their fault. So
right, that was probably that's probably more of an R&D slip up on their part.
Yeah, I mean,
but I guess
the fact that Dredge is, I get why Dredge in it is super effective, and the fact that you can dump your deck, then play Reanimate, get a 7/7 freaking the big demon, I can't remember his name, the big demon with lifelink, and draw 7 cards and gain 7 life.
Right.
In your graveyard, and freaking, and that's what you can do with the deck. Running 4 reanimates in a deck, yeah, it has a tendency to freaking get out of control fast. But you also have the black Machias that give freaking Undying. So I still don't really see an issue with it. Either way, Dredge is still broken. If you want to get rid of Dredge, ban Dredge from freaking Modern and solve your problem.
Right. And I tend to agree on that. If Wizard sees Dredge as an issue, just go ahead and make it simpler on everybody and just go, if the card says Dredge, it's banned. Just don't bother.
If it has anything with the Dredge, anything to do with the Dredge mechanic in general in it, just is not allowed in freaking Modern. Solve your problem, and that's a lot of cards being banned. No joke, that's a lot of cards being banned.
But let's just go on the gentleman's rule of if you actually have to ask yourself the question, can I put this in Dredge? Then the answer is yes, and you can't play it.
Yeah,
but I guess as you said, the fact that they didn't do it before, they attempted, and then it just comes right back. I guess now they're really wanting to address this situation. So I guess they're really just now they're going to actually make that step forward to try to go ahead and deal with the problem altogether.
Yeah.
Now, do I necessarily think that Golgari Grave Troll was the one answer?
Not a chance in fucking hell.
I don't think so. I mean, that's still not necessarily answering the issue of Dredge being in Modern. Yes, it takes out one of its main cards, but I still don't think it necessarily answers the issue at hand.
It takes the freaking way the mechanic. It takes Golgari Grave Troll, who abuse the mechanic the most, but still you can dump cards out your top of your deck, reanimate a big ass goddamn drizzle brand and not care.
Right, right.
But
So,
that's just me though. That's what I would do if I freaking had the $130 for 4 drizzle brands. So
right, right.
that's me.
Just go ahead and just break the bank. Get the Grizzle Brands and let's play top deck mode first.
I mean, that's basically you still play Dredge. You still freaking have ways to do this, and you have ways to do it. You have reanimate. You have Dread Return. You have a bunch of stuff that can easily just abuse freaking Dredge.
Right, and
I mean,
I guess in a sense that's what they're saying is Dredge just enables far too many shenanigans, far too much silliness for the health of the format.
well, in order to do something in the health of the format, you just have to ban that freaking style deck. Period.
Right.
I mean, there's no patching it. Either you have to ban freaking out a self dredge in every way, which you can't do that because some things you need to mill yourself for in order for the deck to work, like delirium. In order for delirium to work, you actually have to have cards in your graveyard, which that requires sometimes either to freaking discard them or mill yourself. Which dredge works off freaking any card going to the graveyard in general. Dredge is off the top of your deck, but dredge takes effect period when you have cards in your graveyard.
Right. Right.
Dredge is basically between freaking a reanimating deck and you quasi playing your crap for free, which is in many cases you're basically playing your stuff for free. You're playing it instead of paying 7 to 8 mana for it. You're probably between 1 and 4.
Right. So in the case of Golgari Grave Troll, I think we can both agree it's definitely a step in the right direction. We'll just probably have to wait for the next couple of ban lists to see if they continue the trend. Do they continue hitting more of the dredge cards, or do they kind of leave it alone for now? What do you think? The next step will be?
Life in the Loom.
You think Life in the Loom will be the next card?
It has to be it. It has to be it.
I can definitely see it because, especially with, we discussed this earlier. Life in the Loom with Golgari Grave Troll definitely it opens up way too many doors. It opens up way too much tech flexibility. It gives the deck way too much consistency, and turns the deck into. I don't know if I want to necessarily say like autopilot, auto win condition, but if we're not going to use those exact words, it's very close.
Pretty much.
Oh, say okay. So on Golgari Grave Troll, I guess we can go ahead and say it definitely deserved to be banned, and we'll just kind of have to see what the next step they take. All right. Well, guys, that's going to conclude our first segment on the 5 ban cards for the standard and modern format. But in this announcement from Wizard, they did go ahead and release an announcement, which I will go ahead and read, concerning the current and future way that they're going to announce banned cards. You guys can see this list yourself, of course, by going to the Magic the Gathering online website. We'll leave a link in the description below in case you guys want to go read this for yourselves. Come up with your own speculation, own theories on why these cards are banned, why they shouldn't be. But let me go ahead and read this, the announcement, just to get the information out there for those that haven't seen this. But it says, the announcement says, banned and restricted announcements will now be made both on the Monday after standard legal set pre-releases and 5 weeks after a Pro Tour, also on a Monday. I guess that means the Monday following the Pro Tour, or the Monday, it could be the Monday before, I'm not sure. But it goes on to say, we're making this change to give us, as well as the player community, greater flexibility in keeping organized play healthy and fun. We recognize the Pro Tour play, which is most directly informed by the announcement time frame that represents a small fraction of Magic play. The play that is most affected by our formats becoming imbalanced is the kind that happens between announcements. Friday Night Magic, Grand Prix, local tournaments, Magic Online events, Pro Tour qualifying tournaments, or even just friends playing at home adhering to format rules. So I guess essentially they're just saying they just want to keep it from affecting everybody in general. So
Mm.
in order to best serve the majority of Magic players, we're adding this mid-set window to ensure play experience at the myriad events so that they are the best that they can be. Uh, we do not expect this to lead to an increase in the number of cards banned or restricted, unbanned or unrestricted, but the greater flexibility will allow us to address play issues more quickly. The last part goes on to say we're making all of these changes because we believe they will help keep Standard healthy, diverse, and most importantly, fun. Ether Revolt is packed with new, interesting cards that you'll want to try out in this refreshed, open environment. Get your first look at them this weekend at a pre-release near you. So I guess we'll probably end up doing another video at some point to discuss the new set as soon as we know all the details of the set. But for the most part, that is the announcement. So do you have any thoughts on that part?
No, I need to make a correction. Dread Return is banned in Modern.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't need to completely abuse the hell out of it, but Reanimate still abuses it.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that answers that question. All right. So I guess we're going to go ahead and move on to our second topic for discussion here tonight, and that discussion is how we would most recommend new players getting into the game of Magic. As most people know, Magic is one of the biggest games in the world, really, to say, and especially with all, I mean, most of you that listen to these podcasts, that watch a lot of videos on YouTube, have seen a lot of the drama recently going around with new players and how hard it is for new players to get into the game. I'll probably release another video just on this topic alone, with the issues in the Magic community. I definitely don't want to sit here and try to pick any fights with anybody, but we all know the issues that have been had. But for today, we just want to specifically talk about how we recommend starting the game, the products that we recommend. For those of you that don't know, I do own a card shop myself. So I will be speaking from, again, not necessarily a professional player point of view, but from the store owner point of view, the business point of view, how I would recommend starting the game. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not going to just shove a bunch of products down your throat. I'm going to actually give you, from my personal experiences as a player, as a business, as well as just somebody that wants to encourage players to get into the game, to enjoy the game. I'm going to give you my side of it, and I'm going to let my friend Lamar give you his experience based on, as a player, how he got really into the game and how he would recommend it. So I guess where we'll start is... we'll go ahead, as I was just said, I guess we'll go ahead and start with discussing how we each got into the game. So you want to go first?
Yeah, I got into the game at Kamigawa Block. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh at first, started to get bored with it, and started to buy Magic. I bought a bunch of packs. Probably spent $50 that day getting into Magic. Took a long break. Took like a 5-year break. After that 5-year break, got back into Yu-Gi-Oh, and started playing Vanguard as well. Sold one of my Vanguard decks. I traded one of my Vanguard decks to a friend, and I started playing EDH. My first EDH deck was Charlie of the Vast. She's still my favorite commander and will always be my favorite commander. Just had an issue of people not letting me play her, so I had to get rid of the deck.
And of course, we're not going to name any names here because we don't want to cause those kind of fights.
Yeah.
but we both know who that statement is targeted toward.
Yeah, you.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna definitely pretend you didn't say that. But moving right along. Now, as far as I go, I didn't start as early as Lamar did. I actually started. It was probably 4 to 5 months before Return to Ravnica. Lamar actually is the one that helped me get started, helped me with a lot of my beginning cards, helped me to build up a collection. So I didn't really have that issue. I had already had a couple of friends that were helping me. So I basically just started off building a simple modern goblin deck. Had a lot of fun with it. It was very simple. It didn't necessarily win all the time or very consistently, but it was very simple. It was very fun. It was interactive. So it definitely gave me a good impression of the game overall. So
Yeah.
I can definitely say from personal experience, as far as how you should start, I definitely say not necessarily try to buy something that's going to be good, but buy something that's simple to learn the game, learn the mechanics, the basic rules, the basic concepts. And definitely, as in my situation, and probably Lamar's too, it is better to already have probably at least a friend that has already played to some degree to help help you along, help you get some basic stuff you need.
Yeah.
Uh, but so from a player's perspective, how would you say that it would be best for a new player to approach the game?
I don't know into what you said. Yeah, having a friend that already plays it helps tremendously. But it also depends on which format you want to get into. I don't recommend you trying to get into modern. Well, modern is actually easier to get into than standard because all you do is know what the legality is, where it starts being legal and where it ends when it ends to be illegal. That's the main part with modern. Legacy, I don't recommend you playing at all
That
until you have around 10 to 15,000 cards that covers most of the sets. I don't recommend you planning into that either. And have an extensive collection, or you have a way to get an extensive collection for Legacy. Same thing for Vintage. I don't recommend you play at all, unless you have a pocket so deep you don't have no problem throwing $30,000 out the damn door.
and On that note of collections, I'm quite sure from both of our perspectives we can definitely say don't do the common thing that a lot of people do. Don't try to run on eBay or anything like that. Try to buy a collection because you're really just getting what some people might call a collection is really just going to be their bulk of cards that they don't care about having. They're probably not going to be in the best condition, and you're going to get probably 10 to 12 copies of a whole set of nothing but commons, uncommons, probably a couple rares here and there. But usually, just buying a bulk collection is probably not the best idea.
No. I say if you buy a bulk collection, this is after you got started for a bit, and you're trying to build multiple decks, well, multiple EDH decks and multiple modern decks. Like I said, I don't recommend Legacy, and I definitely don't recommend Vintage. These price points from Legacy to Vintage are starting at around $2,000 to $30,000 for a single deck. Legacy, the Vintage is the 30,000 part. The 1 to 8,000 is the Legacy, and 8,000 plus is Vintage. Modern, it can be highest. It can be fairly high, but also can be incredibly cheap for modern as well. Modern doesn't require you freaking out them spending $700 on that. So you can, but doesn't require it. But for if you get into standard, um, some people say you can start with the how to debts, the freaking goddamn the
The
starter
sample
debts.
deck,
The starter debts are
right?
not great, even though Taladesh started a new thing with the Planeswater starter debts. Their playability is not there. They do have cards in the deck that are really useful to help build either this. The Chandra has 2 cards in it, and Nisa has 2 cards in it as well that go in current decks, but they both basically go in the same deck. But nonetheless, I don't recommend that. If you're starting standard, I say save up for a while. I was saying if you want to standard, I say save up for a while. I say get around $250. I know that's a lot to get around for something that you may not like. Before you decide to really get into Magic, go to a table and see if they're having a. I say EDH is one of the best formats to learn when playing freaking goddamn Magic. It's a fun format to learn, and the accessibility is far easier than any other format. You
Right.
can you can go spend. You can look through the online and find your older commander decks. Some of the older commander decks are around $20 to $30, or you can go to Walmart, Target, and somehow you can find the older ones. The current 4 color ones that are out right now are $39.98. So with tax is hitting probably around $41, $42.
And you could say you would definitely recommend those.
I recommend all of them. They're all great playing. Depends on which one. If you start out and you want to slowly work your way up to it, there are ones that work great for slowly, and there are ones that work better for buying 3 or 4 cards at a time to upgrade. I don't remember all the names of the decks, but the two main ones that I recommend that are you do a good amount at a time. You actually spend a good amount of time between $40 and $50 at a time. Are Traxa and Brea because Traxa has 4 different builds: a counter build for +1/+1 counters, an infect build, um, uh, an all-out build, and a planeswalker build. The planeswalker build is the most expensive of those 4 builds. The counter build is the cheapest because most of the deck is already geared towards the counters. The infect build is hitting close second to the planeswalker build because a lot of the stuff you need is fairly expensive. It's not hitting $30-$40, but most of the stuff you need are between $5 to $15. $15. There's a couple things that are on a couple dollars, but that's if you're going towards the infect build. The planeswalker build is definitely the most expensive, ungodly expensive actually.
Right,
But
right.
that's the freaking Brea. There's not a lot of cards that are super expensive. There's about 3 or 4 cards that hitting the $20 mark, so you can slowly work on that one. But I think your best bet is to go to the older freaking EDH jets. EDH jets for Elder Dragon Highlander. It gets his name from you only used to play the Elder Dragons. But I think that's the easiest way to get into it. I say for EDH, if you're buying the older ones, I say $50 is the best way to go. You don't get one of the $20 ones. Then you'll get a couple packs too, just to see can you pull anything to add to the deck. Which you probably will do a few things, 1 or 2 things that you add to the deck. That's at the older ones. If you're trying any one of the 4 color decks, unfortunately, most of the stuff you're looking for are not in current sets. There's gonna be except for a couple planeswalkers for Atraxa and 1 or 2 for Brea. You're gonna want to look towards your older sets. So if you are trying to build a newer 4 color decks, you'll bypass for more for trade than actual going to your deck. So around that $50 mark for the $20 one, and probably for the newer ones, I say the $150 mark. I
Right.
know, freaking, I'm saying I'm not. I know. I'm saying this, it definitely is. Even is for me. I really spend money on Magic. I promise you that. In the entirety of Magic I've been playing, I probably spent about $500. And I'm 31 years old, and I've been playing Magic since I was 15. I did take a 5 year break. This is 15 years. I only spent about 500. I still managed to get anywhere from $4 grand debt, anywhere from debts costing $300 to $4,000, and that's how much I've basically spent. Takes a lot of work to do that kind of thing, but yeah.
Right. So essentially, what you're saying is, as long as you're smart with your initial investments, you really kind of take the time to research maybe what kind of decks you want to play, get the basic understanding of the game. It's pretty easy to get into. It's pretty easy to sustain itself.
Yeah, and it's a good way to Magic. You can actually fund Magic with Magic. If you get something that's high value, you don't give a rat's ass about, you want to do it, you can use it to trade value or you can sell. The problem is with selling online, it takes a while. That is one thing that you will basically never see me do is try to sell anything online
Right. And
because
then
it takes
you
too goddamn long.
Right, and then you always have, especially online, you have to try to compete with all the other stores and the other people that really don't care if they don't get the full value of the card. So then you're having to compete with them, which is going to constantly devalue the card because you're simply trying to compete with people online.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Lamar did a very nice job as far as a player's point of view goes. But now I'm gonna quickly, because we are running a little short on time. I'm gonna go ahead and run through what my perspective is as a store owner, as well as a player. I'll try to give a good mixture of the two. And some of the data that I'll be going is through how Wizards of the Coast themselves say that as a store how we should encourage you to play and what types of products you should pick up. But for me, as a new player, I kind of I tend to disagree with the how you should what you should first start with. I would definitely say if you have a computer or an iPad or even a touchscreen iPhone or something of that nature, I recommend starting the Magic Duels Origins online game because it has a very unique, very well put together tutorial. Teaches you the game in a slow, comfortable pace. Gets you used to all of the mechanics. Each time a new mechanic comes up that you've never seen, it immediately goes into a tutorial to teach you how that mechanic works, how to play it. Gives you play sequences on how you should act as the turn player. But overall, it gives you a free base to get into the game. You can put money into it, but I don't recommend it, especially as a new player. Just play a couple of games. Play with a friend if you've got one that doesn't mind playing a little bit more of a fair deck with you, just to get you that experience. Or you can always play with the AI, which is fun in and of itself. But it gives you that free option if you're really budget, if you don't have a lot of money. Magic Duels is a great starting point. But if you do want to immediately jump into paper Magic, I would actually recommend, as long as what Wizards recommends, sample decks, starter decks, trial decks, whatever you want to call them. Because to me, it's not about how good the deck is. As a starting player, as a learning player, I would rather have something that's simple, very simple mechanics, not a whole lot of complicated configuration of cards. Just give me enough to learn the game, the basic rules, the different phases of the game, the basic interactions. Nothing too complicated. Start me out slow, then we can build on. That's how I would suggest starting the game. Now, once you've actually started the game, and let's say you're interested, you definitely want to play this game, and you've got a little bit of money. I would say if you want to target the standard format, which again, like Lamar, I would not suggest doing because the way that the standard format rotates in and out, it means you constantly have to be able to spend money every couple of months to keep your deck standard legal. It's very hard to do. It's very money intensive. Anywhere from $200 to $300 every time a new set comes out. You have to change the deck to stay relative or to dodge the rotation. So not necessarily if you're trying to stay budget, but if you're definitely enjoying the game, definitely you want to try with the intro packs, because that's usually going to be the newer sets that are targeted for standard. You can probably find intro packs for older sets, which are fine too. It gives you a very good understanding, as well as most of them come with rule sheets. Sometimes even an extra booster packs if you get the right ones. So it gives you a good way to actually get into the game, give you a good solid deck. You potentially could even combine somewhat the sample decks with the intro decks. But I would also, as far as just if you're just interested, you're really kind of getting started, I would also recommend the Deck Builders Toolkit, which gives you dice. It gives you instruction manuals on how to play cards from those sets. Several booster packs. It gets you started at a relatively balanced cost. Again, you can find a lot of this at your local card stores, which we always try to recommend here on our channel, to always support your local card store. But if that's not an option for you, we can, as Lamar said, you can always go to Walmart, Target. Sometimes other smaller, like I've seen stuff in like dollar stores, stuff like that. It's always easy to kind of find stuff on store shelves like that. But at usually at a very good value, anywhere from, I think I've seen some from like $20 to $30. But it gives you a lot of stuff to immediately play with. It gives you some ideas. It kind of gets, as I say, it kind of gets the creative juices flowing. It lets you start kind of learning the different colors, what cards work well together, what doesn't. But once you've moved past that kind of phase and you're really getting into it, you're seriously wanting to learn the game, You're wanting to get really good at it. At that point, I would recommend fat packs, which are they don't actually call them fat packs anymore, but it's essentially the same thing. They just kind of changed the name up, and now they're putting planeswalkers in them, which is definitely a better deal. A lot of the new ones are very well put together, a lot of high quality cards. The decks are very efficient. I think they even reduced the price by $1 or two. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
I mean, didn't they? Didn't they? It's like because like the original fat packs were like what 39.99,
Yeah,
and now I
depending
think
on where
like
you at, depending on where you at in the U.S.
right. So I
Some of them
think
are 35.99 to 37.99, and some of them still having 39.99.
right, and so I think, and I want to say like the new ones are depending on where you look and where you live, as well as depending on if you're in a card store, the price is going to change depending on whatever they're offering them for. But anywhere usually, I think I've seen some like 37.99, so plus tax or almost man, still almost $40. Not much of a difference. But start buying booster packs if you're concentrating on standard. You want to do the research, figure out what's in standard, what's not. So that gives you an idea of what booster packs to buy, which ones to try to avoid. You probably want to avoid buying if you're targeting standard as your introductory format. You probably want to avoid any of the sets that are about to rotate out in the following months. So definitely stick toward the newest one to two sets, I would say. That gives you a lot longer of a lifespan to play with those cards before you have to completely replace them. But now let's say you've moved past that phase and you've been playing for I would say a year at least. Now is the time where it's essentially you want to probably you want to try to encompass more formats, play a little bit more diversity. So now at this point, I would definitely, as Lamar said, Commander, 100 card singleton format. Definitely gives you a new way of playing. It's a very unique way of playing. Very fun. The fact that you can incorporate multiple players. It's not just 1v1. It can be anywhere from four up. I don't recommend 10 players, but we've tried that. It does not work. It just does not end well. But what I definitely can recommend is picking one that you like, one that looks good to you. One that definitely interests you, and for the most part, Commander is a very very fun format. It's very good for multiple players. I also recommend the Dual Deck series, which give a lot of playability, especially if you have a friend that's trying to play along with you. Dual decks. Dual decks provide two sealed decks in a product. Essentially, it gives you two decks straight out of the box to play. I'm going to incorporate the last four pieces of what you can do. Unfortunately, I have lost Lamar on this call. We'll see if we can't get him back here in a second.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so he's back already. Okay. But the last thing the last four products I would recommend you trying to buy as an experienced player would be from the Vault, which is a specialized set targeting certain cards, certain art types. Especially if it just so happens that set specifically targets the decks, the cards you like. It definitely gives you a good value. Most of them are foil. So your deck's going to, not only is it going to be playable, but it's going to look nice being foil. Lamar can contest to that. He loves foils.
Yes, I do. I am a foil whore. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's why my cardio debt was almost $4,000.
Right. The next thing I would recommend is Conspiracy, which is, again, it's another unique way of playing the game. It's essentially you're playing the same Magic game, but with a new mechanic added in just for an extra twist. Conspiracy gives you cards that have additional effects depending on how the game's going to start, how the turns go. It can modify hand sizes. It can do all kind of weird, wacky, and fun things that can influence the way the game is played. Also, what I would recommend for a more experienced player is the Modern Master sets. Uh, I would recommend it for a seasoned player. The only thing is that I would not really recommend it is because it is a very high selling point kind of product. It's not very cheap to get, and it's not easy to get. Usually, when stores run out, that's it. There's not an abundant product. Now, there have been a certain master sets that were kind of the exception. There have been a couple that have managed to actually stick around for a month or two after the release. But for the most part, once the set has come and gone, the stores initially sell out. That's it, they're gone. But essentially, Modern Masters is good for the player that wants to get a lot of the high dollar cards, get a lot of the very powerful, very consistent cards. The last thing I would recommend is the gift box, which are very nice. They're pretty budget in my opinion, but they provide a lot of value for a very reasonable cost. Several booster packs. The box itself can be used as a storage box for your collection. Holds, I want to say, holds about 5,000 cards, maybe 4,000. I can't remember. But,
Yeah, it holds around that much, around between 3 to 5,000 cards, somewhere around there.
Right, because I want to say it's like each, because it holds 4 rows, and I want to say the box itself is about the size of an 800 count box. So
Yeah, it has 5 rows, and each row is probably about 8 inches in length, eight to
right,
9 inches in length.
so yeah,
So
I want to say
yeah,
it's like the size of like one of the 800 count boxes.
yeah.
So around that number, you can probably squeeze in around that number. But it gives you a good place to store your cards. The boxes themselves are very sturdy. I myself have several of them. They come in very good handy for transporting your collections. That way you're not carrying 4 and 5 boxes, and you risk dropping one and they fall in a puddle. That's not what you want to happen. So now you're just carrying one larger box, which is naturally it's going to be heavier, but it's little bit safer. And
Yeah,
they're definitely more sturdier than your typical cardboard box. They're made of a lot stiffer material, so they're not going to get damaged as easy. I have dropped a box from good standing height, and I'm 6 feet tall. So dropping a box at chest level, it hits the ground. Yeah, it jostles the cards, but I picked it up. The one of the edges might be a little dented, a little scuffed, but that's it. They're very good, high quality boxes. Again,
yeah, they're around $28. That's $28 with tax.
right.
So
So
around
again,
$20
it's
for the
it's
box.
very
Yeah,
good. The box alone, I would say, is probably worth 10
yeah.
bucks.
I think it's
Not to
5 to 6 packs. Yeah,
Yeah, 5 to 6 packs. I think it even gives you some dice. I know it gives you some rule sheets, deck boxes. It's very good value for what you're paying for.
yeah,
So I definitely recommend that. I actually recommend the gift boxes at essentially any level of the game.
yeah. The gift
Uh,
boxes are a good way to get in. Um, it gives you the 5 to 6 packs to work with. Wherever the current set is, that's what the current gift box is going to be. You can pull value from them. They're definitely worth it. They're definitely worth it tenfold because the only other time you get that kind of value are pre-releases, which is usually where we're at. The pre-releases are $25, and it's 6 packs. Since the average pack is $4.39, you are getting your money back easily. Are you
right.
gonna pull them? Are you gonna pull your money back? That's
Well,
not guaranteed.
that's just up to RNG, as we say in gaming.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
definitely up to that.
right.
Now, I've pulled value out of packs. Doesn't mean shit to me half the damn time because I'm not looking for the card I'm pulling. I usually pull, so I have no problem getting rid of it. Um, One thing about Magic, there's usually somebody looking for something always in Magic. Depending on
Oh,
your
always,
area,
always.
there's usually somebody looking for something. Yeah,
Uh,
if you pull a $40 card, you can't get rid of it right away. By the time you be able to get rid of it, it's probably $20. There's also a chance that it may go back up. God knows that's happened to me several fucking times, and it pisses me off every time.
of
But
course. Funny story, actually. On that note, Lamar's probably going to get really mad at me here in a second, but I'm going to say it anyway, even at the cost of my own health. for anybody that's actually in the game already, there's a card called Azusa the Lost but Seeking. A great card, wonderful card. A couple of years ago, I was working on a deck that ran the card as the EDH commander, but for whatever reason, Lamar actually had 4 copies of the card. And at the time, they were valued at around $2. So that's what I bought them from him, for $2. Within, I would say that like the next 2 weeks, the card had more than tripled its value. It was, I want to say it was like $25.
Yep.
A week or it was like I don't even think it was a full 2 weeks even after that the card practically doubled again. It was almost $50, and it was
Yep.
just it was really funny because that trend continued over a period of time. Every time I would buy a set of cards from him, within the next week or two, their price would almost double. I mean,
Yep.
so much to the point. Like I said, the Azusa would be $2. I'd buy it within the next month. It was nearly $50. And it
Yep. So
was
I
just
basically stopped selling him cards. This seems to bite me in the ass.
but yeah, so that you kind of be ready for that. Of course, it's the same way in any card game you play. Card values are going to change, but Magic is notorious for doing it for various reasons, but sometimes no reasons at all.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was something to see play in a format, or it become more prominent in a format, and the price will steadily go up. Sometimes it goes up a little bit. Sometimes it would go up a lot. But one thing about Magic, and usually the price usually doesn't drastically change. I don't mean it'd be $40 one damn day and $20 another. No, well, $2 another. It doesn't usually do that kind of thing. It steadily rises over a period of week to 2 weeks. It will hit a point that it'll stall, and if it becomes more prevalent, it will rise even more. But after it levels off, it'll drop $10 to $15, maybe 20. But it will stay somewhere in between. If it's a really prevalent card, it will stay somewhere between the 30 and 50 mark, fairly constantly. Now, depending on your area, is able you get rid of it. You know, say you can do the online thing and sell it, and then you'll take fucking goddamn forever. Or you can check your local game store and see how much they'll offer for it. Or you can see can you trade for it, or someone at your store will buy it.
of
But
course.
most likely, they're not going to buy it at $50. So be
No, of
reasonable.
course not. Because I mean, you have to always keep in mind, card shops are business too. We can't exactly, again, as a business myself, I can definitely see from their point of view. I kind of have to, of course, but as a business, we have to try to make some kind of product or some kind of a profit off of even our singles. And essentially, the way we have to do that, and it's kind of unfair to the players, but most of the time, you just kind of have to understand. The way it works for us is we buy the singles sometimes at a slightly discounted price so that we can have it at a reasonable price. We're not going to just shoot up the value, or most of us aren't. I can't really claim for all shops, of course. But for us, for our store, we usually charge at least no more, definitely no more. That tends to be our policy. No more than a 10% increase. That covers the amount that I have to pay my employees to stock it, to do all the necessary steps that we have to do to put it in our systems. That just make sure I'm able to pay them, and at that point we're breaking even. So I haven't even made any money at this point. But then we turn around and sell it to the customer, and we have to again. So we're going to charge the 10% over to make that money. But the way it works is, say somebody wants to sell us a card, try to get a little bit of money back off of a couple cards they don't need. Well, if we buy the card from them at value, and then we turn around and sell it at value, we're just breaking even, and then no money's being gained. We can't stay in business that way. So what most stores end up doing, and it's going to be different for different stores depending on how many Magic players they have, probably depending on their inventory, how many of that card they already have, if they're looking for it, if they're not. But most of the time, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you, look, we want this card, but we're only going to give you 75% of its value. So if it's $25, or if it's a $20 card, we're going to offer you 15. Some places do 50. I've even seen some places online advertise as 25%. And to me, that's once you hit that, if you go any lower than 50, if you're offering your players only more than 50 or less percent of the card's value, you're really just more of just trying to be an ass, and you're just trying to cut into. You're really just trying to cheat. You're really just trying to cheat them, and that's not right to me. But most stores are going to stick between that 50 to 75% range. If it's a card that they really need because they know, maybe they have the inside track, they know the card's going to go up in value, they'll probably buy it at full price just to go ahead and close that deal. But for the most part, they're going to offer you 75% of that card. That way, when we turn around and sell it at value price, we're going to make 25% profit, which sounds like it could be a lot, but when you consider a lot of standard cards are only going to be anywhere from 25 cents to $2, that 25% loss that the player gets in return usually is going to be no more than 10 to 12 cents. So a lot of people don't understand that, but a lot of times for stores selling and buying singles, we're only going to make about anywhere from 12 to 15 cents per card in profit. So it's not like we're saying we're trying to not give you the full value for your card, but we have to try to do something to offset the costs. And in that way, it does sound like it's like almost kind of pointless, considering we would have to sell 100 cards or 200 cards a day to make a big difference. But in the long run, it definitely helps with your money. It helps with all your costs, all your upkeep, all that. Again, I didn't mean to make that stretch out that long, but
well, I can vouch for Jamie himself. He's great with freaking them, giving you um, a good value for your cards. As I sold them cards all the time. I did it quite often, even full debts, and I usually get close to what I'm asking for. And I ask for something reasonable. I never ask for the full value of the debt because I'm not delusional. But I usually get close to what I'm asking for, or exactly what I'm asking for. He's definitely worth doing business with. And one thing about Magic, like I said, its RNG is some of the worst I've dealt with. Nowhere near as bad as Yu-Gi-Oh's, because Yu-Gi-Oh's RNG is complete bullshit because their price fluctuations on a completely different level. But
right.
Magic is far more stable, and
Yu-Gi-Oh has its own problems. We could probably spend another hour or two just on Yu-Gi-Oh's issues.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, me myself, uh, my business is based on customer satisfaction. We're not trying to rip people off. Yes, we have to make money. Yes, I have to pay my employees. But for the most part, as the owner, I make practically nothing. Most of the time, any kind of profit I make off my business, I end up turning around and funnel it back into the business. So essentially, I don't even get a paycheck, which is fine with me. I don't care about that. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the customers, for you guys on YouTube. Uh, right now, I mean, we may not make anything off this video, but that's fine with me. We do it for the customers. We do it for, like we're saying, for the new players trying to get into the game. We want you guys to be able to enjoy the game, to get the information, because the information's not easy to come by. You're going to see a lot of different people talking about a lot of different things. And, we want to try to start doing these series to try to make things a little bit more clear from Lamar's player point of view to mine as a store owner. So to give you guys as much information as possible on how to start the game, how to get the most enjoyment out of the game, and even we may even do a series on how to get the most value out of certain things.
yeah.
But I think for the most part that pretty much concludes all of the topics we wanted to talk about here tonight. So before we go off for the night, Lamar, do you have any closing statements you'd like to make?
The one thing I gotta say, one thing, Magic is definitely off-putting to new players
It definitely
because
is. It
it is
definitely is.
definitely off-putting to new players
It looks
because
very intimidating to watch.
yeah, it's actually it's actually one of the most complicated games you can play, but it doesn't actually take long to pick it up.
Yeah.
And another thing, I know a lot of the players can be off-putting because some of us are much older. Magic is definitely geared towards the older crowd. If you're
Absolutely.
if you're definitely to me, if you're under 15 years of age, you should definitely probably stay around UDO or Vanguard. And don't get me wrong, I love Vanguard, but I don't want to play another damn game. You should definitely stay around there.
Another video.
Yeah, you should definitely stay around that game a little longer. If the game itself is really starting to piss you off, go ahead and try to sell everything off at all of it off at once. Don't try to part it out. Your nut in is going to take you far longer, and don't try to ask for some stupid, ridiculous number. I don't care if you have a $3,000 debt. Sell it off at once. If you want to get into Magic, talk to somebody who's in your game store, a friend who also plays Magic, and get into Magic. It's definitely worth playing. Is all of it is definitely worth it long term as well.
Right, and I would actually like to go back and make a statement on the fact that Magic is very intimidating. Magic is very intimidating. For like Lamar said, you're going to see a lot of older people playing. As you said, it's geared toward older players. So if there are any new players listening to this podcast that would like to start the game, I would definitely highly recommend that you do not walk into a game store and try to sit down next to somebody and think that you're going to learn anything, because the only thing that you're going to do is you're going to hear a lot of terms and a lot of things that are said, and you're not going to have any idea what's going on. Ask a veteran player to sit down and show you, play a simple game with you, if they have the time. If there's a judge, ask them. They'll be more than happy to help you. If you're one of our customers, always know that you're more than welcome to ask us my staff any questions. We will always be more than happy to help in any way we can. But for a new player, don't try to just run into a store and think that you're going to be able to sit down and just learn from anybody. Like most card games, you're going to run into a lot of people that have a lot of different personalities. I would definitely recommend try to find someone like us, someone that's a little bit more laid back, that doesn't take the game too seriously. Because if you talk to somebody that's sitting there and just like running through their cards, playing really fast, they're probably going to get a little irritated because you're a new player. They don't really have the time to sit there and explain every little thing, and we don't want anybody getting put off by any of this misinformation or just bad players in the community, because you're going to have those no matter what game you're playing.
That's a definite.
And I definitely don't want to say that Magic is the worst, but it's just the fact that it is the largest community. You're going to have more of those players. I would definitely have to say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably has the worst community. But as far as Magic goes, and we don't want to stray too far into another game, that'll be another video. But for Magic, just learn the basics, enjoy the game. It is a great game. Definitely one worth picking up. You don't have to spend a lot of money unless you want to. Keep it cheap. Keep it simple. If you have to, go on your computer, print out the cards, use them as proxies, fake cards if you don't know what that is. Learn the game, enjoy it, play with a friend if that's an option for you. If not, card stores are a great place to try to make some friends. It's actually where I met Lamar, where I met a lot of my current friends. Great bunch of guys. A lot of their actions, a lot of their support is what actually led me into opening my store. Again, I'll save that because a lot of people ask about that kind of stuff, how we got started with our store and whatnot. We'll save that for another video in and of itself. But in closing for this video, guys, just enjoy the game. It is a great game. Don't let anybody try to talk you out of it. You need to learn for yourself, experience it for yourself before you try to make any judgments.
Yeah. If you also don't try, especially with EDH, don't try to rush to build your decks. My average deck took me 2.5 years to build. I'm not joking.
Especially EDH. EDH is going to take you a long time to build because EDH is a format in which cards usually don't get banned or taken out. For the most part, they don't. So the decks, the cards you're allowed to use, really don't change very much. So you're constantly getting new sets worth of hundreds of new cards that can be added in. So you're going to constantly be tinkering, changing, and especially when you first build a deck, it's going to seem like an overwhelming process. Just don't let it consume you. Take your time. Pick a commander that you enjoy, a play style that fits you. Again, if we get enough requests for it, we can do a constructive video on, you know, what types of decks you would enjoy based on your personality. We can do the research, give you that information if you guys want that. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, me and Jamie both have similar deck types. We both like control in a way, and we also like to be a little aggressive with our deck types. But we both have similar deck type styles, and I'm currently working on the newest commander that came out is a Tratza. I probably already changed that night around 10 times,
he's
probably
not
more
lying.
than that actually.
He's not lying.
Yeah, I've
It's
changed that quite a few times, trying to find the right balance.
I talk to him every week, and it's like, hey, I changed like 15 cards. I'm like, how did you manage to change out 15 cards?
Yeah, I change, I do that quite a lot because I'm not doing the normal builds for her. Mine's a combination build, so like I said, choose find a place that works for you, and
Find a
take your
commander that you enjoy also.
definitely find a commander you enjoy. Tratsa is one of my most favorite, but Kalia will always be my favorite. But I can never play the deck again, unfortunately.
No, of course not. I mean, they kind of changed the rule to make it where she doesn't just get completely boned, but still not very fair for her in the long run.
Yeah, nobody's gonna ever let me play her again. I ran the hell out of the shop.
Uh,
So yeah, no one's gonna ever let me play that commander again. But it's definitely Magic is one of the best freaking card games I've ever played, and I will continue to play it as long as I can.
right. Well, guys, I think we're gonna start trying to wrap it up right here for the night. So let me just kind of go ahead and start in with saying, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I'd like to take this moment to thank Lamar for joining me here tonight.
No problem.
And if you guys want to see more videos like this, if you guys want to see Lamar do some more videos with me like this, because we can get funny together. We have a lot of fun conversations. And together we can give you guys a really good idea of different ideas. We put our heads together. We come up with a lot of good ideas. So if you guys enjoyed this video, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Make sure you hit the little bell icon, as YouTube is still experiencing that strange glitch which for some reason tends to unsubscribe people as well as delete comments. So make sure you guys hit that bell button, which is going to inform you whenever we upload a new video to the channel. We've been a little lax with content, but we're going to try to pick that up now that we've got more equipment. We've got more ways of recording content for you guys. So we're definitely going to pick that up with at least 1 or 2 videos a week, even if I have to do a couple by myself. We definitely want to make more content for you guys. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you guys have any ideas for any videos you'd like to see in the future, leave a comment down in the comment section below. Again, we'll go through the comments, read as many as possible, try to figure out what you guys would like to see. If you guys have any topics you would like for us to discuss, let us know. So, from TCG Unlimited, thank you guys for watching and have a great night. Thank you.